Hello. In this video I'm going to be doing a tour of my game room. That's a calendar in my kitchen. And in the kitchen is the door that goes down to my room. It's a really old house, by the way. This house is like 100 years old. Actually, it's over 100 years old. It's built in 1893. But the first thing to the left, I've got my NES games. The shelf right here is probably older than me. Now, my first video game console as a kid was an Atari 2600. I got that when I was probably about 10. I got the NES when I was 12. I got the Super NES when I was 17. Now, I owned like probably 10 to 15 NES games, but my parents used to take me to the video game store every week where I used to rent games every single Friday and Saturday night. So I probably rented over 200 games. Now when I got the Super NES, I went and traded in all my NES games for store credit so I could buy a Super Nintendo game. So all these cartridges we see right here, I had to go back and rebuy off like eBay, out of pawn shops, used video game stores. The only game in here that's original from my childhood is Gumshoe, because we did not have the Zapper as a kid, so this game kind of got thrown into a box somewhere and never really got played, and I came across it a few years ago. Here I've got some Nes sleeves. Now a lot of times when you buy these games they don't come in sleeves, so I had to order them off eBay. Some of them say Nintendo on them, and I got some there that don't. So what I recently decided to do is start putting the Nintendo sleeves on the NES games that were developed and published by Nintendo, like Super Mario 3 for example, Super Mario Brothers. Take a game like Top Gun that was developed and published by Konami. I don't have a Nintendo label on that one. Down here I got the Super Nintendo games. And pretty much the same thing with Super Nintendo. I had to go back and rebuy most of these cartridges. So I'm not sure what I ever did with the ones that I owned. Probably in an attic. Down here, I couldn't fit any games on this shelf because, see, this shelf right here I put in myself because there was a huge gap between here and here. So I decided to put in a shelf in between them, but here I put it too low. I might go back and raise it so I can put some more games down here. I've got all my games in alphabetical order too. At least the NES and Super NES games I do. Over here we got some Atari games. They're just kind of randomly placed. The very first game I'd ever played on in my life was Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. The very first game I'd ever beat in my life was E.T. Down on this shelf we've got Game & Watch, which I recently bought. I thought this was going to be one of the original from like 1980, but turns out it was re-released in 2020. So it's not really a collector's item, but still kind of cool. Got my only Sega Genesis game, Sonic Classics. I don't have a Genesis right now. I've got the Atari 2600, the Atari 5200, NES, Super NES, N64, GameCube, Wii, Wii U, Switch, Game Boy, and I've got the Retron 5, which is for playing old retro games. So anyway, here's my Atari 5200 games. Now I never had a 5200 as a kid. My friend Faye did. The only game I remember playing at his house was Pingo. My sister ended up buying an Atari 5200 as an adult, and we were going through her storage a few years ago and came across it. She told me I could have it since I collect games and she's not really interested in games. Here's the one I really want to play, the Mario Brothers. It's kind of cool to have the Nintendo name on an Atari cartridge. Some third-party, unlicensed Atari games by CBS Electronics. We got Gorf and Wizard War. We also have over here some amiibos, Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Bowser. There's the NES Zapper. As I mentioned, I didn't have one as a kid, but I bought one as an adult. The only problem is it doesn't work with today's TV, so I still have never done a video on Gumshoe. Gumshoe is the only game, the only NES game on the shelf I haven't done a video on. I've done a video on every single game we see on the shelf, as far as NES and Super NES. Now, Atari games, I did videos on some of them, but not all of them. I didn't do any videos on the 5200 yet. I've never even hooked that console up. At some point I'm probably end up doing that. Down here I got a bunch of VHS tapes. I used to record Star Trek The Next Generation off TV. Then I went and bought all the DVDs, so the VHS tapes I ended up recording video games over. Over here got some boxes. Got the Switch box, got the Wii U, Super Mario Maker Deluxe set. I wish I would have saved my boxes as a kid. Now we're going to go down the steps into the basement, which is a disaster because I'm kind of remodeling. We're in the process. We just got it waterproofed. I'd like to get carpeting on the floor. I'd like to get wall paneling put up and ceiling tiles put in. Down here in this drawer we got my NES, got my Game Boy, also got the NES Classic back there. Next drawer we got Super Nintendo, some controllers. Bottom drawer we got the N64. Top of here we got the Nintendo Switch, which is actually hooked up to my TV. Another Atari cartridge ET. And here we got the GameCube. Next drawer we've got the Wii. Down here we got the Wii U gamepad. I've got the console hooked up to my TV. And here, this is just a random drawer with nothing really video game related in it, but the second drawer got some old video game stuff in it. Retron 3, which plays NES, Super NES, and Sega Genesis games, but it stopped working. Here's the Retron. This played just NES games, but the problem with this thing, I've actually had two Retrons. The games fit in there way too snug, so there were times I actually had to use pliers to pull them out. Here's the only video game box I have. Terrible game, by the way. Bottom drawer, I've got, these are all the games that I have recently bought, but I have not done a video on them yet. And the reason I put them in this drawer is because this way I know I haven't done a video on them yet, and also I don't know if they work. I haven't tested them. Usually when I buy used games I don't have problems. They usually do work, but you never know, you might get that one that doesn't work, so I put them in here. I'll do a YouTube video on them, which is a way to test them, and then when I know they work I'll put them on the shelf. Got some NES games, got some Super NES games, a few N64 games, and finally some GameCube games, because before getting these, the only video I've done right now on a GameCube game is Super Mario, or Mario Kart Double Dash. I'm really looking forward to doing this one, Universal Studios Theme Parks. I've seen the Angry Video Game Nerd episode on it. I've also seen James and Mike Monday's video on it, so I kind of know what to expect. I won't get my hopes up and think it's a really good game or anything, but I still think it would be kind of interesting to do. Namco Museum, for some reason these games seem to be really popular on my channel, so the fans really seem to like Namco game, like the Namco Museum games. I did one on the PlayStation. It was real popular, so hoping the fans like this one too. Castlevania, I actually tried doing a YouTube video on this. I spent 10 minutes playing it and recording it, but I had no clue what I was doing, so I just deleted the video. Eventually I'll go back and kind of learn the controls, so at least give it some excitement. This game I don't know what to make of. I had a friend that gave this to me, Donkey Kong Pie Factory. I don't know if it's just Donkey Kong with a label on it, or if it's actually some hack game that's going to be different. But at some point I want to do a video on that. Now, I did a video on NFL Quarterback Club 98 for the N64, and it was really popular, so I'm kind of interested to see NFL Quarterback Club 96 on the Super NES. And I also got NFL Quarterback Club 99 on the N64, so those make it kind of interesting. Okay, next, here's my computer desk. It's a picture of my son Tavis. He'll be turning 18 on April 1st. Down here I got some games that I recently did a video on, but just haven't put them on my shelf yet. Cheez-Its Duels, I just bought those yesterday, pretty good. This is the computer I use, my laptop, for uploading my videos. And in these desk drawers, got a bunch of random stuff. Carnival. There's really not a whole lot of video game stuff in here. This is the actual camera I used from like 2003 to 2013 to 2017, and I recorded, the very first video I did with this was Tetris Party on the Wii, but then finally I started playing the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I wanted to do longer videos on, and the battery life in this thing was getting just really bad, where it's like part 1 was 45 minutes, part 2 was like 20 minutes, part 3 would be like 15 minutes. It was so random. So I just decided to stop using this for videos, and now I'm using the camera that I'm using now. I started using that one, and the good thing about this is I can plug it in while recording. I don't have to worry about the battery life. I do have some Switch games in here. Mario Maker 2. Game Night. I did Monopoly, but I did not do Risk or Trivial Pursuit. At Breath of the Wild, one of my favorites. Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. I did a video on both of those. Did Super Mario Odyssey. Now, the reason I don't have these on shelves is because I really don't have that many. Oregon Trail 5th edition on the PC. I still keep this camera because I still use it. Like it's a waterproof camera, so I use it for going on canoe trips. Also going on vacations. Won a couple Carnival cruises and got a lot of pictures. I actually plan to go on one again sometime soon. This drawer I got a bunch of random video game stuff in. It's a poster I cut out of the newspaper, and one thing that really annoys me about this, I set my flashlight down, is they got some of the dates wrong, or like consoles wrong, depending on how you want to look at it. But like, okay, the NES says released in '83. Now it was released in Japan in 1983 as the Famicom, and it did not look like that. They redesigned it to look like that and called it the NES, but that was released in '85 in North America. And the Sega Master System, I believe, was released in '86. TurboGrafx 16 was released in '87 as the PC Engine in Japan. It was released in '87 as the TurboGrafx 16 in North America. Yeah, it was released in '87 in Japan, released in '89 in North America. Not sure if I said that right or not. Got the Genesis. Super Nintendo, once again, it was released as the Super Famicom. Japan in 1990, it was released as the Super Nintendo in North America in 91. And what I think is really funny is they got the Tiger Gamecom on here, which really not many people heard of that. But they don't have the Panasonic 3DO on here, which I think was a little more popular than the Tiger Gamecom. Also in this drawer we've got Game Genie book. Got the NES and the Super NES ones. There's the Game Genie for the Super NES, Game Genie for the NES. Got some Joy-Con controllers. Yeah, I got some external hard drives. Now this one, The Sims on the PC, I never did a video on this one because, see, I bought my very first home computer in 2001. I was like 24 years old. And I had it until 2009. I bought this game in 2009, and by that time my computer was so old that it was just really slow. So I never really got much experience playing this game. I ended up buying the Sims games on the PS2 and never went back to trying the PC game. Also got Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Story Strategy Guide, Spiral Notebook I use for writing down cheat codes in some games. Here's a game this was actually a friend of mine from my last workplace. He loaned me this game. I loaned him a movie. He ended up quitting his job, so I never got my movie back. He never got his game back, but I don't think either of us really cared that much. But I tried playing this once and I could not figure it out. Maybe I'll have to do a YouTube video on it to learn. Got my Super Nintendo mouse. Got some Game Boy games down here. I really don't have that many Game Boy games. Game Boy Color game. Actually bought this thinking it was a regular Game Boy game, then found out it was Game Boy Color. It didn't work. I don't think it worked in the Super Game Boy. But now I got the Retron 5, which it might work in, so maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. Here I got my Super Game Boy. Down here in the bottom shelf I've got my PlayStation games, my PS2 games. See, I haven't put any of these in shelves yet because I don't have that many of them. At one time I used to put my NES and Super NES games all in these drawers, but I started getting too many, so I started putting them on shelves. My N64 games. These three games right here I actually had since like 98 or 99 or 97. 97 or 98 is when I bought them. GoldenEye, Super Mario 64, and Mario Kart 64. Next, here's my TV, my PS2 controller, my controller for the Wii. Here we got the Retron 5, got the Super NES Classic. Keep it turned upside down because this limestone wall kind of crumbles. As you can see on top of this movie cover, I got some little white speckles on it. I don't want it getting into the controller like the buttons on the Super NES Classic. That's why I want to put wall paneling up. Retron 5 displays NES games, Super NES, Game Boy games. I think it also plays Famicom games. Oh, it says right on top. I was looking at the icons, but yeah, Famicom, NES, Super NES, Genesis. Not sure what. Oh. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Famicom, NES, Super NES, and Genesis for the 4 slots on top. Game Boy games fit here. Now it's also showing a picture of a Game Boy Advance right there, so I'm guessing Game Boy Advance games fit in there too. Over here I've got my DVD VCR combos. VCR parts don't really work on them, the DVD player still does. And I've got my Wii right there. I've got my PS2 up there. So right here is the DVDs I'm currently watching, Cobra Kai. Really good show. I just started watching it this past week and really getting into it, really like it. Star Trek Voyager Season 7. Never got around to putting those back on my shelf yet. And that's pretty much all for video games, but I'm going to continue touring my room. So you might have noticed the hockey logos on this wall. I painted those myself. I painted the Chicago Blackhawk logo. I used to be really big into hockey, especially the Blackhawks, so I painted that back in 2009. And then I decided to paint all the other NHL teams. Clearly I'm no artist, so some of these look terrible. Others kind of impressed myself though, like the Florida Panthers. There's a lot of detail in that. That one turned out pretty good. Then you look at, like, the San Jose Sharks did a terrible job on that one. Yeah, I was really big into hockey until like 2013. The Blackhawks won their second Stanley Cup since my lifetime, and it just seemed to me like the NHL playoffs were fixed. I was able to predict the winner of every single series, and I mean, it just, all professional sports seem like they're fixed. So I just kind of lost interest. I could be wrong, maybe they're not fixed, but it just seems like it. And over here, got a weight machine. I just bought this a year ago. And I really don't like it. It takes up too much room. I'm thinking about getting rid of it. I paid like $200 for it. I bought it off a friend. It took a lot of work to put it together. I mean, putting the frame and that together was no problem, but the pulleys was the hardest part. Trying to figure out where the cords run and all that. Got some movies down here. I got most of these movies for Christmas. Now, I used to have these movies on VHS tapes, but last summer I got rid of all my VHS tapes since my VCRs don't work. Now I want to find those movies on DVD, so these are the ones I got. I just didn't get around to putting them on my shelf yet. This one I just bought last night. Tom Hanks, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I guess it's a story about Mr. Rogers. This weight bench right here, I bought this I bought this on Christmas Eve, my birthday of 2019. But I made the mistake of buying one that didn't have a rack on the back of it. That's kind of like just sitting between my weight machines here. But so I couldn't put a barbell, and I was using dumbbells. Over this way, there's my bed right here. Up there is a painting of, I was going to paint video game screenshots all over my wall. So I started painting Super Mario Brothers. And I realized at that point that I was a terrible artist. My Goomba does not even look like a Goomba. So I just kind of stopped right there. I didn't color in the sky or anything else. Kind of just thought, okay, I'm no artist, I give up. Got my bed here. Nightstand, got my dresser. That stereo right there, I bought the stereo for $150 in 1997, and I still use it today as my alarm clock. Gonna go back here in this corner. Gonna have to turn the light on back here. This is where I got my new weight bench, which I just bought this previous winter. I think I got it in like December or January, but this one actually has a rack. The only problem is I can't put very many weights on it. I've got a 25-pound weight on that side, a 25-pound weight on that side. I had 100 pounds on it, but it wouldn't fit because it sits like the distance between the two weights it's like the same distance between the two racks. So the weights like end up running into this thing here. So I'm gonna have to get a different barbell, I guess. Here I got my movie racks. Now I don't collect movies like video games. The only movies I got are the ones that I watched and liked. Except for like that Mr. Rogers one, Tom Hanks one. I've never seen it yet, but occasionally I'll buy some movies I've never seen. But most of these I've seen. Brady Bunch, I used to watch them as a kid. I got all the episodes. I got all my movies or DVDs in alphabetical order too. I got all the Star Wars movies. I like the first, second, and third episode are my favorite. The fourth, fifth, and sixth episode are okay. I tried watching the new ones like Solo, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. I just had a hard time getting into them. I got all the Saved by the Bell episodes. I used to watch that as a teenager all the time. I think most guys had a crush on Kelly Kapowski, but I always liked Lisa Turtle. Down here I've got my my Star Trek, The Next Generation episodes on DVD. Also got Beavis and Butthead. Over here I got that right here are the Star Trek movies with Captain Picard in it. I don't have the old ones with Kirk in it. See, I never watched the original series of Star Trek. I started with The Next Generation. I did see the movies though, Star Trek, the motion picture, Star Trek 2. So I've seen all the movies up until Nemesis. I haven't seen any after that. I got Star Trek Deep Space Nine, all 7 seasons. Star Trek Voyager, all 7 seasons. And down here I got a bunch of weights because, as I mentioned, I can't use my barbells, so I'm using dumbbells for lifting. Anyway, I think that's pretty much just about everything in my room. Here's my hockey jerseys. I've had most of these for 20 years or more. Every player I've got is retired. Doug Gilmour, Eric Dezay. Got Gary Suter sitting on my bed there because I wore that today. Got Tony Amonte, Jeff Hackett, and Chris Chelios. And I think that's pretty much it. Take another scan at my games up here. Yeah, I think I've got like 120 or 130 NES games and something like 75 Super NES. I've got the exact numbers in my computer. It's hard to keep track when you start collecting games, especially if you don't have them all on the shelf that they're supposed to be on. Like, I got a bunch of them in the drawers down there, and then I buy new ones like every, I don't know, maybe once or twice a month I might buy some new retro games and forget to mark them down. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the tour. I'll see you in the next video.